All right, guys, today's video is about timely fertilizing. This really ties into people with poor soil. So if if you've got good soil to great soil, this video probably does not apply to you. But this is one of the tips I do to try to help to override what this ground's providing me. And forgive me if I sound winded on this video or cough a lot. I am fighting bronchitis, and I've somehow managed to get pink eye, and I'm going to go have a doctor's visit tomorrow to do another test. I may have signs of the flu kicking in, so I don't know what in the world's going on, but I feel like garbage all day. Matter of fact, I've been garbage all week, and it's just been a battle. So I'm going to try to do this the best I can for you. All right, so what I try to do, and I just don't have the energy to do it today, but in the case with poor soil, this is now what I consider the peak rut time frame. So in our area, it's Thanksgiving to that first week of December, and then we start declining. At this point, a buck has been chasing so much that he can lose as much as 30% of his initial body weight. So if you want to do an example of a 200-pound deer, just multiply that by 0.3 and then subtract that number from the 200 pounds, and that's how much weight that deer could potentially lose. And there is some chances, in some cases, they could lose more than that, especially if your doe ratio is way too high. So you've got to load these deer up on nutrition. So what I'll come in here and do in the case with this poor ground is I will add another wave of fertilizer in here to juice up the ground again. However, I do not apply the same rates as I would during the spring and summer. Those plants are in a totally different phase than plants in the fall and winter. Your spring and summer plants are growing very rapidly, so they require more energy to do that. In this case, these plants here are growing much slower, and they don't need as much nutrition to either sustain themselves or grow as quickly, because it's just not going to happen with the amount of sunlight, the cold temperatures. It's going to keep these plants kind of knocked down for a while, and then if you happen to get some warm days mixed in somewhere, you'll see them erupt out of there, and then they stop again, and then they might grow again depending on how your temperature does. So what I try to do is I'll come in here and throw out fertilizer half the rate I normally would. So just in case, if you want to use an easy example, if I apply 50 pounds to the island in the spring and summer, that means I come in here and I'll put 25 pounds out. I don't have to, really throw fertilizer in here hot and heavy, because you can actually get the reverse effect, that if these plants grow too fast and everything looks great, the first time you get a frost, it can really bite this stuff back, especially your clover. I've noticed that clover tends to grow better if you've either prepped the ground initially, or if you come in and add another wave of fertilizer, that you keep it lower in the wintertime, not higher. So that's just something to consider when I'm trying to already shift gears into buck recovery mode. If you want to gain a lot of antler size and body weight to a deer, if you can focus on recovery, you'll be shocked at how much of a leap a deer can make. They've had some that were wild deer that were captured, and they wasn't really much to look at per se as far as antler and body, and they kept it in a enclosed environment to where they kept feeding it, and it was in high quality food the whole time. That deer jumped 40 plus inches of antler in one year. So you have to be aware that when these deer are in the wild, not only you're not in control of what's going on, but you can at least try to harness some of the problems that occur during the rut, which is when a buck is run down, he's low on energy, he could be running on fumes at this point, and some bucks will die from this. So you have to be prepared for that. So the longer you allow the buck to live, the better the odds are you're saying nature's going to kill that deer. And I'm not saying that you need to hurry up and shoot every little deer you got. That's not if your goal's not to shoot every little deer, just don't change it because you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose it if I wait too long. Try to let the deer mature. There's a vast majority of bucks that can live a long time. Some of the wild deer that have been on record have been alive for 20 years. So it's not like it's a really high chance that deer that you're leaving is going to die. It can get injured, it could get sick. There's all kinds of other variables that kick in. But when you apply buck recovery methods, which throwing extra fertilizer out, making sure there's enough food in here, I generally try to do this pretty close to the peak of the rut. So normally I would have been out here fertilizing, but I just don't have the energy to do it. Sorry. So the goal is to increase the health of your deer, and that way the following year you'll be looking at a nice big fat healthy buck. So another way to help with bucks recovery is making sure you have adequate food. If you can't expand your plots, you need to juice them suckers up with some nutrients. That includes trace minerals. So if you have the ability to do that, I would recommend doing so. But as the ground gets healthier, your goal is to get away from those synthetic fertilizers. So wean it off of your ground once your plants start performing the way you want them to. And then you won't have to worry about throwing out additional nutrients in your soil unless you want to add a little bit more trace mineral if you think it's off. But this is a temporary tactic that I do until the ground is built up to where I want it. So I hope this helps you guys. I will have more on buck recovery. And I've got a couple other requests on my sow rates per pound for my spring and summer. And I will get that to you. I have not forgotten you. I've just been sick as a dog and laying in bed for about 4 days. All right, guys, have a good one, and I hope your hunts are doing well.